A small yellow taxi sped down the highway, slicing through the July night with its headlights. In the back seat sat a cozy-looking couple. A well-dressed man in an open blazer and a young, attractive brunette were chatting animatedly and laughing. Up front, the driver, a petite woman in a dark baseball cap, stayed silent, eyes fixed on the road, doing her best not to draw attention to herself. "My sweet, gullible wife is probably at home cooking her famous chili," the man smirked, reclining in his seat. "Thinks I'm at a business conference." The brunette beside him, about 25, wearing bold makeup and a tight designer dress, giggled. She ran her fingers lightly down his arm and winked. "You're such a smooth talker, Zane." "But what if your wife gets suspicious?" she teased playfully. Zane Blackwood grinned, taking his time to reply. "She won't. I told her I'd be at an off-site company retreat with no reception. My phone's on silent. Scarlett believes everything I say, what choice does she have?" He laughed again. The woman laughed with him and leaned closer. They were clearly enjoying each other, and the secrecy. What neither of them noticed was the quiet driver in the baseball cap. Because that woman, the one silently gripping the steering wheel, was Scarlett. Zane's wife. The very woman they were mocking. Scarlett could barely breathe. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like it might leap from her chest. Her throat tightened. The moment the pair got into her car outside the restaurant, she had recognized Zane instantly. For a second, she wanted to turn around and scream, ask what the hell he was doing and who the woman was. But her body locked up. The shock was too much. So instead, she simply pulled away from the curb, deciding she'd see how far this lie would go. Just that morning, Scarlett had been in her kitchen, gently stirring a pot of chili con carne on the stove. Zane was leaving for a corporate conference, and she wanted to send him off with a hearty home-cooked meal. He'd been bustling around the bedroom, packing shirts and documents into a travel bag, clearly a little on edge. "I'll make you some sandwiches for the road too," Scarlett offered warmly, pulling turkey from the fridge. "Don't want you going hungry, sweetheart." Zane gave the food a quick glance and nodded. "Yeah, thanks." 10 minutes later, he was at the door, ready to leave. Scarlett wrapped her arms around him. "Text me when you get to the hotel, okay?" "Of course," Zane replied, avoiding her eyes. Then he gave her a quick kiss on the cheek and headed for the elevator. She watched him go with a quiet sadness. She always missed him when he went out of town, even if it was just to the office. This was supposed to be a longer trip. But she'd stay busy. Work would keep her distracted. After cleaning up and changing, Scarlett headed to her second job, one Zane didn't know about. For the past 3 months, she'd been secretly working evenings as an Uber driver. Finances had gotten tight. A year ago, they'd taken out a major loan to renovate the house, and soon after, Zane's job cut his bonuses. She still remembered that night, Zane sitting on the couch, head in hands. "How the hell are we gonna pay the mortgage?" he muttered. Scarlett had pulled him close, whispering comfort. "We'll figure it out. We always do." Zane even considered taking on a weekend job, but she stopped him. He was already exhausted from work. That's when she had an idea, why not earn a little extra herself? She was a great driver, and rideshare demand in the evenings was high. He wouldn't like it, too dangerous for a woman, he'd say. So she didn't tell him. Instead, she said she was going to the gym, or helping her cousin with the kids, and slipped out to pick up a few fares. It wasn't easy, driving after a full day at the office. But she did it for their family. This evening, since Zane would be gone, she planned to take extra shifts. She was even feeling a little excited. Maybe she could save up for the birthday gift Zane had been dreaming about, a pair of luxury Rolex watches she'd seen. Just imagining his smile made her glow. The first fare that night went smoothly, an elderly woman from CVS to her home. Then a young couple headed to the movies. Around 9 o'clock, a new request came in. Pick up at the Blue Moon restaurant. Scarlett recognized the name, an upscale place downtown. Probably someone running late after a business dinner, she thought, pulling up to the front. But as the door opened and the next passenger stepped out into the streetlight, her heart stopped. A man in a sleek suit was gently guiding a stunning brunette by the elbow. And in that moment, illuminated by the restaurant's glowing entrance, she saw the truth. It was Zane. Her husband. The world blurred before her eyes. Scarlett sank lower into her seat and tugged the brim of her baseball cap down, trying to hide. This can't be real. This has to be a nightmare, she thought, panic rising in her chest. But it was real. There he was, her husband, laughing with some stranger, not even glancing around. The couple walked straight toward the parked cab, her car. For a moment, Scarlett was paralyzed. Every instinct screamed at her to hit the gas and drive away. But it was too late. Zane opened the back door, helped the woman inside, and climbed in after her. Scarlett forced herself to breathe. In the rearview mirror, she caught a glimpse of his face, flushed, smug, completely at ease. He gave her an address she recognized immediately. Zane had mentioned that place before, said he went there to work late with a colleague on lingering projects. Now she knew that colleague never existed. She nodded faintly and pulled away from the curb, doing her best to hide the trembling in her hands. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure they could hear it from the back seat. What a twisted turn of fate tonight has brought me, she thought grimly, shifting gears. And just like that, she found herself in the most surreal situation imaginable, her cheating husband in the back seat of her cab with his mistress, and she, the betrayed wife, behind the wheel. Scarlett kept driving in silence, occasionally glancing at them in the mirror. They didn't even notice her. Too wrapped up in their little fantasy. Too busy whispering, laughing, cuddling. They had no idea who was under the brim of that cap. In those 30 minutes, Scarlett heard everything. Each word cut like a knife. Zane spun ridiculous lies about his clueless wife and how clever and important he was. They giggled, wrapped in each other's arms, totally immersed in their night out. Scarlett's eyes welled with tears, but she gripped the wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She held it all in. Until they reached the upscale condominium complex. Scarlett killed the engine, then slowly turned to face them. Her hands were steady now. Her voice calm. "We're here," she said softly. Then, with a quiet finality, she removed her cap, letting her chestnut hair tumble free. End of the line, Zane. Zane was already reaching for his wallet. "How much?" he began, not even looking up. But the second he heard her voice, he froze. Scarlett raised her face slightly, the cabin light catching her features. Zane looked at her, and went ghost white. "Scarlett," he choked out. The wallet slipped from his hands. The woman beside him gasped, covering her mouth in shock. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Scarlett stared directly at her husband. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but her tone remained controlled. "What? Didn't expect to see me here? Thought your naive little wife was at home cooking chili?" She echoed his earlier mocking words with precision. Zane flinched, as if slapped. The mistress arched a brow and slid slightly away from him. "Scarlett, this isn't what it looks like," Zane stammered, his face drained of color. "I can explain." He reached out toward her, but Scarlett raised a hand sharply. "Don't touch me," she said, her voice trembling now, but firm. "You already explained plenty during the ride. I heard everything, Zane. Every single word. About how gullible I am. How easy I am to lie to. Real high opinion you've got of your wife." Zane's face turned blotchy with shame. The woman beside him was starting to put it all together. She scoffed and lifted her chin defiantly. "I'm not sticking around for your domestic soap opera," she said icily, glaring at Zane. It was fun, as long as your wife was in the dark. With that, she flung open the door and climbed out, slamming it shut behind her. Good luck, she snapped sarcastically, glancing back through the window, though it was unclear whether the bitter farewell was meant for him or for Scarlet. Then, heels clicking against the pavement, she disappeared into the building. Zane and Scarlet were alone now, the silence inside the cab thick and suffocating. Zane reached for her hand. "Scarlet, baby, I'm sorry. It was a mistake," he pleaded, licking his dry lips. "A mistake?" Scarlet exploded, the flood finally breaking through. "You lied to me. Said you were going to a business conference. And instead, you're out whining and dining some woman at fancy restaurants. While Her voice cracked, but she pushed on. "While I'm out here working nights to help support our family. So you wouldn't have to carry the whole burden alone. Do you get that?" She fished a crumpled receipt from her pocket, the down payment for a luxury watch. "See this? I was saving up to buy you this for your birthday. A Rolex. The one you always talk about. Because I loved you, Zane. I really did. What about you?" Her voice faltered. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She wiped them away roughly with the back of her hand. Zane slumped into the seat, burying his face in his palms. "I know I messed up. I'm so sorry," he murmured, shaking, "but you lied to me too, saying you were going to the gym. Turns out you were driving Uber at night. How is that okay?" Scarlet let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Oh, so now this is my fault," she said, her voice raw. "You're seriously comparing what I did to this?" "Yes, I kept it from you, because I knew you'd never let me. I did it for us. For our family. And you? You were out having fun with your girlfriend, and now you're blaming me?" Zane said nothing. There was nothing left to say. They sat there for a long moment, locked in a silence heavy with everything that had just unraveled. Finally, Scarlet broke the stillness. Quietly. But with steel in her voice. "You know what, Zane? Your naive little wife won't be making you chilly anymore. Not at home. Not anywhere." Zane looked stricken, pale as a sheet. "Scarlet, baby, don't say that," Zane whispered, tears glinting in his eyes. But she had already opened her door and stepped out into the night. "Where are you going?" he called after her from the back seat. She walked around to the other side of the car and opened the rear door. "Out," she said clearly. "Get out of the car. You want me to leave? Just like that? You're leaving me here?" Zane looked around, as if expecting someone to come to his defense, maybe even the mistress who'd vanished into the building minutes ago. But what about? He looked up at Scarlet, and froze when he met her icy stare. There was nothing left for him to say. He stepped out reluctantly. Scarlet slammed the door shut behind him. She didn't want to see him anymore. Didn't want to hear him. Her heart ached like it might split in two, but she knew one thing for certain, she would not be forgiving him. Without another word, she walked around him, climbed back into the driver's seat, and turned the key in the ignition. "Scarlet, please. Wait!" Zane cried, stepping toward the window. "I'll fix everything, I promise." Too late, she shot back, not even glancing in his direction. "And don't you dare call me baby. People don't betray the ones they love." With that, she hit the gas. The car sped off into the night, leaving Zane standing alone under the glow of a street lamp. Scarlet barely remembered the drive back. Tears blurred her vision, and her hands trembled on the wheel. When she reached the spot where she was supposed to hand the car off to the next shift driver, her colleague took one look at her red, tear-streaked face and asked gently. "You okay? I'll grab you a coffee. Just breathe." She wanted to wave him off, to say she was fine. But instead, she nodded. Sure. Let's go. 10 minutes later, they were parked outside a 24-hour Denny's. Scarlett sat clutching a scalding cup of coffee with both hands, trying to stop the trembling. The warmth began to seep into her, melting the ice around her heart, just a little. David drove her home afterward. In the silence of the car, Scarlett watched the dark silhouettes of palm trees and streetlights flicker past the window. Everything inside her was quiet. Numb. What a strange twist of fate tonight has been, she thought wearily. What lay ahead would be far from easy, a difficult divorce, property division, but she already knew there was no turning back. That night stretched endlessly. In the emptiness of their home, Scarlett finally allowed herself to break down. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed, loud, deep, messy cries. She didn't hold back. The world she knew had collapsed in a single evening. By morning, exhausted and hollowed out, she made her decision. It was final. She would file for divorce. She packed up Zane's belongings, shoved them into a suitcase, and left it by the front door. Just yesterday, she had waited for him with love and anticipation. Today, she waited for nothing. The divorce process wasn't easy, but Scarlett had made up her mind. There would be no begging. No reconsideration. No theatrics. She was done. She filed the papers herself, with a full packet of documentation, including a flash drive. On it was the dash cam footage from her rideshare vehicle. Back when she first installed it, she hadn't thought much of it. Just standard Uber protocol. But now, it was her irrefutable proof. The camera had captured everything, the affair, the laughter, the lies. The judge reviewed the footage carefully. He didn't show emotion, he didn't have to. His decision was clear. The marriage was officially dissolved. Based on the evidence, the betrayal, the emotional damage, the court awarded the house to Scarlett. A rare verdict, but a fair one. Zane spent the next few days trying to undo the damage. He called. He texted her long, rambling messages. He even showed up with flowers, swearing he'd change. But Scarlett felt nothing. No anger. No sorrow. Just silence, and freedom. Her story had ended the way it needed to, with justice. She had been through hell, but she came out stronger. Life rewards honesty. It rewards heart. And Scarlett had both. Now, she had a new beginning. One of peace. Of truth. Of happiness. And if, one day, someone came along who truly deserved her love, well, she'd be ready. Because now, Scarlett had found herself again. And that was everything. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, we'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true, powerful stories.